Well, hello, buddy. Welcome back to Tin Man Score Channel. I'm your host, Jeffrey Tin Man Taylor. Today, like I promised, I'm going to be reacting to one of Mr. Haunted's Halloween videos. And this was titled Three True Scary Halloween Horror Stories. Now, I already went through his little intro. He was talking, and he said one of the stories is actual personal family story. Without further ado, I'm going to turn these lights off, move the camera up here for you guys, and let's get this reaction on the road in the bag, shall we? Okay, here we go.
In 2014, something very creepy happened to me and my cousins on Halloween.
Okay.
For a little background information, during the time this happened, I was around the age of 8 and I've always loved going trick-or-treating. Filling my bag with a bunch of candy and eating it and trading candy was amazing, which was why Halloween was my favorite time of the year. Overall, trick-or-treating was a great experience.
You know, this person ain't lying. Trick-or-treating was a lot of fun back when I went out on Halloween. But also, I did what this person did. Talked to my cousins, see if they got any candy that they didn't want and I like, and I traded with the candy that I didn't like. Just so I would be going home, taking candy I don't eat and letting it go to waste. Just wanted to throw that in there, but let's just continue on with the story, see what happens next, shall we?
One Halloween, I was going trick-or-treating with my two cousins who we'll call Abby and Carlos. Abby was 17, and my other cousin Carlos was around the age of 10, so Abby would be the one watching over us while we went trick-or-treating. My parents and my cousin's parents were the type of parents who gave the rule of be back by this time or there will be a consequence. Neither of our parents played around, so we respected their rule and they said to be back by 10:30 at the latest as it was a school night. Anyway, we started to hit a few houses up my street that were obviously decorated with Halloween decorations, so we knew they had candy. After hitting about 5 houses, it was around 8 and our pillowcases were already almost half full. Throughout the night, we went to houses getting candy and we even went into a house that was supposed to be a haunted walk-through house type thing, which was pretty cool for the most part. Anyway, fast forward about 30 minutes later, we come across a house and Carlos immediately jumps with excitement when he sees that there's a bolo by the front door. People rarely put out bowls in my neighborhood for trick-or-treaters, but it happens.
Yeah, because sometimes people don't want to be standing out there waiting for trick-or-treaters to come out there to their houses to grab candy from them. They just leave the bowl there and let people have at it. But to me, sometimes that would seem sketchy because you never know if the person is really setting up a trap by luring kids to come get the candy out of the bowl and then maybe lure them in the house for better candy. But I don't know. I'm just guessing at the moment. I'll be looking at the windows just to make sure nobody ain't spying on me creepily.
When we got to the front door, we found no candy in the bowl, which was expected considering the fact that it was about 10 p.m. and Halloween started to die down and people stopped answering their doors. However, as we were getting ready to leave, we saw a light turn on in the house, so we figured that whoever was in there knew we were here. A few seconds later, a woman, I'd say in her mid-70s, answered the door. She greeted us with a smile and said that she had more candy but that it was down in the basement. She then said that she had trouble lifting things and asked us if we could help her get the candy from the basement so she could refill the bucket. We of course felt really bad for the woman and she looked tired and really looked like she needed help, but at the same time we were a little creeped out. Abby then said, sure, I'll help you. Just to make something clear, Abby was and still is the most sweetest and nicest girl you'd ever meet. She'd do things for people even if it sounded suspicious. So anyway, once Abby was approaching the door to go inside, she stopped and said, "Oh, I'm so sorry, but I just realized what time it was. We have to get going because we have to be back by a certain time." The woman didn't say anything. She just stared at us in a very angry look as we walked down the street.
You see, right there. If somebody comes to the door and says they got more candy inside, but then when you tell them we got to get back home at a certain time and they start making an angry face, then something is fishy. Almost like that person did not want you guys to leave yet. I told you it sounded like it was going to be like one of those luring children with candy in the house type things. But luckily, the older sibling here caught wind of it and tried to get the younger kids away.
Once we got back, Abby sent both of us inside while she talked to the parents. I didn't know what she was talking about, but decided to ignore it as it wasn't my business. A few years later, Abby and Carlos were having dinner at our house one night, and at one point in the conversation, I had for some reason brought up the Halloween with that old lady. Abby immediately looked at me with her eyes open wide, and she said that she'd never go trick-or-treating again because of what she saw that day. Now that I was older, she revealed what really happened. She said that when she was about to go inside, she noticed something behind the woman inside the house. At first, she didn't know what it was, as it was dark in the house, but she looked harder and realized that it was 2 or 3 men dressed in black, wearing Vendetta masks, looking straight at her. She knew that she had to get out of there, and so we left. Till this day, I'm very glad that she noticed those men, because I have no idea as to what would have happened to her had she gone into that house. Halloween should be a treat, not a trick.
Exactly, but we got a bunch of daggum idiots running around putting on costumes just to trick people into getting candy, and then they end up kidnapping somebody, or worse, murdering them. But like I said, thank God she noticed 3 individuals behind this seemingly nice old woman, because if she went in the house and didn't see them guys, she would have been knocked over the head and taken somewhere. You never know. But yeah, that would make me not want to trick or treat anymore ever again either. But I'm just glad that they're all right and made it back home safe and sound. So let's get to story number 2, shall we?
Alright, this happened just a few years ago on Halloween night. It was a Saturday, which meant that there would be more trick-or-treaters going to houses, and they also be doing it for a long time, as it wasn't a school night. My parents were going to a Halloween party with my younger brother and his friends. I wasn't really the type of person who likes to party, so my job would be to hand out candy to the trick-or-treaters who came to my door.
Yeah, same here. I'm not a huge party goer, but if we had people coming around our neighborhood trick or treating, I wouldn't mind handing out candy, but you never know what crazy person would be looking around just trying to either steal a bunch of candy or do something worse nowadays. But anyway, let's continue.
I have to admit, it was a bit annoying having to get up from the couch constantly to answer the door, but whatever. Anyway, it was around 10:30 p.m. and Halloween was starting to die down, which was a relief for me. So I just sat back down on the couch and finished watching my movie. However, 30 minutes later, I heard another knock at my door. I let out a sigh and got up once again, thinking that it was probably the teenagers going trick-or-treating. I opened the door with a bowl of candy in my arms and was greeted to a man that was about 6'4" and was wearing a Freddy Krueger costume. I have to admit, it was a bit creepy considering that the costume was very well detailed and was probably expensive. I jumped as soon as I saw him, and then he started to laugh while taking off his mask. He said, while still chuckling, "Oh, hey, so I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to scare you." I laughed a bit and said it was okay.
Yeah, to be honest with you, I would be kind of spooked a little bit, but if somebody took the mask off and said, "Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to scare you," I'd be like, "Yeah, it's okay." But something tells me that this person might need to keep their eye on this dude, because you never know what he's up to.
He then put out his pillowcase as if he wanted candy. Now, this guy looked to be in his mid-20s, and I thought it was a bit weird to be going trick-or-treating at that age, but it wasn't any of my business. As I was putting the candy into his bag, I saw something in his bag that sent a chill down my spine. Inside his bag was a large knife. Now, I'm not sure if this was real or not, but it did look pretty realistic. He said thanks and walked down the sidewalk. He seemed like a nice guy, but there was something slightly off about him, and I just couldn't put my finger on it. About an hour later, it was around 12 o'clock, and by then there were no trick-or-treaters. My mom and brother were surprisingly still at the Halloween party, but I was getting tired and decided to head to bed. I got ready and fell asleep almost instantly. However, I was woke to a knock at my window. I opened the blinds to see the same man dressed in that Freddy Krueger costume. I screamed and hid inside the bathroom hoping he would go away. Just then, I heard bangs at my front door and I knew it was only a matter of minutes before he was going to break it down. I yelled out, "I have a gun and the police are on their way, so get the hell out of here." That seemed to scare him off as there were no more noises. My mom came home soon after, but I never told her about the incident. I have other stories, but this is the scariest by far.
Man, I would have told somebody after an incident like that. They would have been more serious about calling the cops and making sure you're okay. But also, that was a good move on his part to say that he has a gun and the cops are already called. They're on the way. Because if he didn't say that, that guy in the Freddy Krueger costume would have been taunting him until he found a way to break in the house. Talk about a real life nightmare, right? That's another thing you also got to watch out for, because there's a lot of people that are fans of these horror icons and they would actually dress up like them just to carry out their twisted and sick plans on Halloween. And they might end up either breaking in your house to steal something with that disguise or kidnapping you or killing you. Always be careful on Halloween if you're handing out candy when trick or treating is over. Lock the doors and windows, but if you have security cameras, make sure they're on. Just so if you spot somebody that was coming back to not get candy, you get them in the act.
This happened to my dad when he was around the age of 35. It was Halloween night, and my mom and sister and I were going to our good friend's Halloween party, which was always a blast. Unfortunately, my dad had to work the night shift at Toys R Us back when it was still in business, so he couldn't come with us. The people in our neighborhood wasn't a fan of giving candy to trick-or-treaters for whatever reason, so that was one of the reasons as to why we go to this party every year. Anyway, we get to the party at around 8 p.m., and my sister and I start going trick-or-treating with our friends. Keep in mind, all of the kids, including me, were around the ages of 8 and 9, so the parents had to go with us.
Oh, of course. They want to make sure that you're safe and you get all the good candy that you want. But it does kind of suck when you live in a neighborhood that don't even want to do no trick-or-treating events. I get it. Some people don't want to spend money on candy and just wait at their front door until somebody walks up and they're ready to be spending that time watching scary movies or going out somewhere. I get it. But let's just see what happens at this party that makes this story so terrifying.
We weren't too fond of the idea, but as long as we got candy, we were okay with it. Throughout the night, we hit houses left and right with our bags of candy being filled fast. We all were having a great time, for the most part. However, I remember that we stopped at this one house, and after we finished getting the candy, we all turned around to see my mom on the phone sobbing while the adults were trying to calm her down. And us kids in our 8-year-old state didn't really seem to know or care as to what was going on. We then got back to my friend's house, and my dad came soon after. My mom and everyone else hugged him while they were still crying. My mom nor anyone else would tell us what had happened, so we all forgot about it. Fast forward a few years later, I was having breakfast with my mom, and for whatever reason, I brought up the time when she cried on the Halloween night. She gave me a worried/sad face, and now that I was much older, she told me what really happened. My dad and two of his coworkers were putting everything in the store away and getting ready to leave for the night when the glass doors broke and three men wearing masks broke in the store. One of the men asked who the manager was, and since my dad was the manager, he was the one who raised his hand. The man went up to my dad and put a gun to his head and said these exact words. "Now, you have 10 seconds to open the register or I won't hesitate to shoot you." My dad thankfully remained calm, not showing any signs of fear or anger towards them. The men kept pushing my dad to open the register, but it was stuck. At this point, my dad and his coworkers are freaking out, but thank God the register opens. The men then take the money and were never to be seen or heard from again, and the police never identified the suspects. Till this day, I'm so grateful to have a dad and that he's alive, because it's very possible he wouldn't have came home that Halloween night.
Well, I'll be. So Mr. Honda's story was number 3. But he's right. If he didn't cooperate, if his dad did not cooperate with those guys, he wouldn't have a dad anymore. Man, that's shocking. Well, thank God they just took the money and ran, because sometimes I heard on the news that people would just take the money, but then they end up going through with their threat and just kill the person anyway. There's so many mean SOBs in this world that just want to ruin any holiday just for their sick pleasures of robbing the store. But I'm glad that his dad kept the cool and got the register open before those criminals decided to shoot everybody. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, turn on post notifications for more Mr. Haunted content like this. This has been another successful installment of the Tin Man Squirrel channel. I'm your host, Jeffrey Tin Man Taylor. I said this wrap, and happy Halloween, everybody.